It's the season premiere of Raw, complete with a new announce team, new set, and a Universal Championship defense by Seth Rollins against WWE icon Rey Mysterio. Join us now as Wrestlelamia looks at the good, the bad, and the downright ugly from the 30th September 2019 edition of Raw. And whilst this had the most WTF ending of all time, we're going to outline why this was the best Raw in a long time. First, let's open with a recap, and we've put timestamps in the description so that you can clearly skip them if you want to. But Raw is coming to you from Phoenix, Arizona with all your new announce team of Jerry the King Lawler, Vic Joseph, and Dio Madden ready to call the matches. Rey Mysterio comes out as his son Dominic is seen watching from the crowd. The Master of the 619 talks up his title match tonight, dedicating it to Dominic. But Paul Heyman and Brock Lesnar crash the proceedings, with Brock grabbing Rey's mic and passing it to Heyman. Rey grabs the mic back, perhaps his last act as a wrestler, as Brock delivers 2 F5s, and then Lesnar goes after Dominic, grabbing him and throwing him into the ring post. Lesnar delivers a German suplex followed by an F5 as Rey is helpless to stop the carnage. The WWE officials arrive to restore order. Paul Heyman talks to Brock, only for the Beast to attack the WWE officials, Mysterio and Dominic. Dominic has been attacked so bad that he does the stretcher job. And boy, he bumped like a boss. He obviously graduated from the school of bumps like Mr. Perfect did. The first match of the night sees Sasha Banks vs Alexa Bliss, as the boss proves her mettle tonight when she pulls a fast one on Little Miss Bliss, tricking her into thinking she's summoned Bayley for help, and catches Bliss with a surprise pin and a handful of tights. But you can feel it in the air. It's run-in time as Becky Lynch races to the ring, attacking Banks before the boss bails out into the crowd. The man grabs the microphone and tells Banks she won't be able to run away at Hell in a Cell. There's a video recap of The Fiend's latest attack, as last week Braun Strowman ate a mandible claw as Seth watched on in helpless terror. Charlie Caruso interviews the Universal Champion Seth Rollins, and the Beast Slayer is outraged with Brock's attack on Rey and Dominic, but he promises Rey he has a title shot as soon as he's cleared to wrestle. Rollins turns his attention to The Fiend and says while there's no way to ready himself for such an opponent, he's not going to go quietly and will do everything he can to retain the title this Sunday. Rollins issues an open challenge for anyone who wants a Universal Championship shot. Who will turn up? Next up is tag team action as the Raw Tag Team Champions Dolph Ziggler and Robert Roode take on Heavy Machinery. Otis and Tucker put the champs over as Ziggler superkicks both men before Roode lands the glorious DDT on Tucker, covering him for the win. It's now time for Miz TV with the A-list as special guests, Hulk Hogan and Nature Boy Ric Flair. The Miz sends out his best wishes for Rey and Dominic, noting he doesn't know what he'd do if someone put their hands on his kids. Flair and the Hulkster take some shots at each other, but note their mutual respect. However, Slick Rick notes that no one could ever touch him in the ring. The fans chant one more match. Oof, please God no. But Hogan reminds the fans they're no spring chickens. Fortunately, there are always possibilities in wrestling, and The Miz announces that October 31st will feature a 10-man tag match with Team Hogan battling Team Flair. Rollins and Orton exchange barbs, as the Viper says each captain will pick their team's members. That doesn't rule out a captain's match though. Next up, Seth Rollins goes up against Randy Orton in a non-title match, but the match never happens as Baron Corbin interrupts, distracting Rollins and allowing Orton to blindside him. Corbin clobbers Rollins with the scepter, and it's a 2-on-1 beatdown until Rusev makes the save, as the Bulgarian Brute helps Seth clean house. And after that, Charlie Caruso asks Rusev where Lana is, but he dismisses her inquiries, saying he's not here to discuss his domestic problems, but Seth Rollins' problems. Where were the champs' friends tonight? Rusev takes Rollins up on his open challenge for the Universal Championship shot. Backstage, the AOP are in Aleister Black's room, talking about living and loving violence. Next up is tag team action as the Viking Raiders take on Carl Anderson and Luke Gallows. The Raiders get a win after their previous loss to the OC as Ivar hits a top rope splash on Gallows. Cesaro shows up and thinks Lesnar's actions were all well and good. Ricochet disagrees and notes Rey may be considerably smaller than Cesaro, but he's twice the man Cesaro is. The two have a match and Cesaro does what he does best in the WWE, unfortunately counting the lights. Here Ricochet hits the West Coast Pop for the win. Funny how he used Rey Mysterio's finisher for the win. There's another episode of the Firefly Funhouse, as Bray Wyatt's friends are trembling in fear at what the Fiend is going to do to Seth Rollins. Wyatt tells them what a bad place Hell in a Cell is, but reminds the Fiend will protect them and their house. Wyatt tells his friends he'll try to talk the Fiend into leaving Rollins alone, but reveals he's just joking. Next up, a United States Championship match, as champion AJ Styles takes on Cedric Alexander. Once again, Cedric plays the little engine that couldn't, falling to a Styles clash again. It's women's action up next, as Natalya takes on Lacey Evans, and the sassy Southern Belle proves an eye rake and a roll-up with the tights is still a time-tested way of winning matches, defeating Natalya with some basic heel tactics. Highlights air from John Cena's appearance on Ellen, and backstage, Charlie Caruso interviews Maria about the baby. Canella seems confused and asks why Caruso is bringing up Rusev, as he's not the father, and Rusev has too much going on at home. After that, Paul Heyman admits Brock Lesnar's actions tonight were uncalled for, but Heyman blames Vince McMahon for putting Lesnar on the season premiere of Raw, when Lesnar is focused on crushing Kofi Kingston on Friday Night SmackDown. Lesnar's advocate predicts a new WWE champion will be crowned this Friday. Sasha Banks is talking trash about Becky Lynch, reminding her she competed in a Hell in a Cell match before the man ever did. The boss promises destruction for the Raw Women's Champion. We then cut to footage of a limousine pulling up to the arena. It's now time for the main event, as Universal Champion Seth Rollins takes on Rusev. And it's a good match and another example that Rusev has the goods in the ring. And during a commercial break, we get a glimpse of the Fiend. Be sure to check out our recent news video for the WWE subliminal advertising of the Fiend. But just when Rusev has the momentum, his wife Lana shows up, followed by Bobby Lashley. Lana and Lashley start making out as Rusev is stunned. Seth Rollins is even more stunned when the Fiend shows up and attacks him, locking in the mandible claw as Raw closes out. But that was a quick recap. What about the good, the bad, and the downright ugly? Let's start off with the good. As number 1, a big open. If the WWE wanted to start things off big, they certainly did so, with the Beast laying out Rey Mysterio and Dominic with a flurry of F5s. It's hard to imagine a better way to start the show or to swerve the fans who were expecting a Rey vs Rollins match, which quite frankly, no one expected Rey to win. Number 2, a good build-up. Tonight's show exemplified how you build up the show fans are watching, as well as important events on the horizon such as pay-per-views or a special show such as Crown Jewel. The Flair vs Hogan verbal volley not only set up their 10-man tag match for Crown Jewel, but set up Rusev vs Rollins. Tonight's show offered promise that the WWE can do things right when they set their minds to it. Number 3. Thank goodness they didn't do it. Now we know both Flair and Hogan are now fully retired from in-ring competition, but tonight we had a slight feeling that WWE were actually going to make the long-awaited dream match. Yes, we know it happened at house shows, but let it happen on a much quote-unquote grander stage just to please Saudi officials. After all, they have been calling most of the shots by placing bags and bags of money on the table, and may have wanted to see them clash, but thankfully, we won't see it. Still, it's a little odd that WWE wants to do a 5v5 match before, one of the biggest pay-per-views of the year which it's known for doing. They could have saved that for the Survivor Series. Number 4. Regulating Raw's rhythm. While it might seem nice for every Raw to be non-stop action, fans need an occasional breather or the show becomes one badly booked bevy of hotshot angles. Tonight's show kept a steady pace, but also slowed things down with an occasional interview or filler match to give the fans time to breathe. Number 5. Fun fillers. While Raw occasionally suffers from meaningless filler matches, it pales to SmackDown, which is notorious for throwing in matches with zero meaning. While Cesaro vs Ricochet may have seemed meaningless on paper, it helped keep the attack on Rey fresh in the minds of fans, and put Ricochet over as a babyface who isn't going to let someone mock a respected babyface. Even the OC vs the Viking Raiders was useful, as it evened the score in the two teams' battles, hopefully setting things up for a memorable rubber match. Number 6. Satisfying swerves. Raw was anything but predictable, other than the Fiend interfering in the main event. The WWE threw some red herrings at the fans, including Baron Corbin and Randy Orton watching the match, suggesting they might interfere. Lana's return, as well as Bobby Lashley's return, was an interesting surprise, showing that there is a good way to misdirect the fans, and bad ways as seen with most of Vince Russo's post-WWF career. Number 7. The biggest return. Pyro. Oh, how we missed thee, when you used to open up weekly shows with a bang. Finally, WWE has pulled the trigger and brought it back. It just gives the show a bit more oomph and hype as it opens up. and it's certainly better than just some lights going on followed by commentary. Number 8. Bumping like a boss. Now, even though Dominic didn't do any wrestling, his bumps in the ring showed good promise. We all know that soon enough Dominic will be stepping in the ring as a performer, and even though he's just an untrained kid in the ring, he still made Brock Lesnar look absolutely vicious. But that was the good. What about the bad? As if we're really gonna nag on just one point, it would be the WTF ending. Now, whilst we always enjoy the appearance of The Fiend, the ending was just so random, as we got a returning Lashley locking lips with a returning Lana, which then transitions into The Fiend smothering Seth with a mandible claw whilst Rusev watches on, and this all happened within about 5 minutes. What the hell? Now, we don't get too many LSD endings like that, but Heyman looked like he took some inspiration from an R-rated horror flick. But that was just a slight negative, nothing really too much. As for the ugly, absolutely nothing. Tonight's Raw was beautiful. They just gave us hope that it can put on a tremendous show with all the points we mentioned, and frankly they pulled out all the stops tonight to give us a consistent and exciting show. Certainly something we don't commend them on a usual basis. Sadly, however, Wrestlelamia is skeptical whether the WWE can deliver 2 good episodes in a row. As much as Raw has improved, it still lacks in consistently providing good or excellent shows on a weekly basis. Maybe we're just asking too much. What did you guys think of Raw? What did you guys think of the ending? Let us know in the comments down below, subscribe if you haven't already, follow us on Instagram and Twitter, and I'll see you next time with some more wrestling content.